Ever heard a jailer's keys jangle in the dead of night? Let's listen to the spooky echoes of Scotland's Jedburgh jail on Tall Tales UK. A quick note, these tall tales are purely fictional fun, with a bit of British cheek. Let's start in the Scottish borders, where the town of Jedburgh sits like a jewel amid rolling hills. Its abbey, a 12th century marvel that's seen everything from royal visits to border raids. Its weathered stones whispering tales of monks and marauders. But just up the road, Jedburgh jail looms over the town, a grim fortress built in 1823 to house the region's ne'er-do-wells. Its high walls and iron gates are stark contrast to the abbey's graceful arches. Designed by architect John Howard as part of his prison reforms, the jail replaced a medieval dungeon that was more rat than reform, aiming to bring order to the lawless borders, where cattle rustlers and smugglers ran rife, their exploits the stuff of local legend. The jail's 3 stories of sandstone held cells for men, women, and even children as young as 8, locked up for stealing a loaf or picking a pocket, their cries echoing through the corridors as the wind howled outside, carrying the scent of heather and the promise of a harsh winter. Jedburgh jail closed its doors in 1886, its iron gates slamming shut for the last time, but the echoes of its past lingered, turning it into a museum where visitors can step into the cells and feel the chill of history, or something colder still. But one jailer's keys still jangle in the dark, a spectral figure whose stern gaze has become the stuff of local lore, whispered about in the pubs of Jedburgh over drams of whiskey and plates of haggis. Meet Jangling Jamie, a ghostly jailer who vanished in 1845 while locking up for the night. His keys a constant clatter that echoed through the jail, a warning to the prisoners huddled in their cells. Jamie was a gruff sort, his face as stern as the jail's stone walls, his uniform always pressed, his boots polished to a mirror shine. But he had a soft spot for a dirham of whiskey, which he'd sip from a flask hidden in his pocket, muttering keeps the chill out, lads, to the prisoners as he passed their cells. On that fateful night, he was doing his rounds, his keys jingling with every step, when he vanished into the shadows of the east wing, leaving only his flask on the floor, its contents spilled like a ghostly offering. Now, Jangling Jamie haunts the jail's corridors, his keys a ghostly jangle that sends shivers down the spine of every visitor touring the museum, their footsteps echoing on the stone floors as they peer into the cells, half expecting to see Jamie's stern face round the corner. If you leave a thimble of whiskey on the cell block floor, Jamie might jangle a thank you, his voice a low growl that cuts through the silence. Cheers, mate, but mind your manners. But don't linger too long, or you'll hear his keys jangle right behind you, as if he's locking you in for the night. On windy nights, his jangle mixes with the creak of the jail's old gates, a ghostly rhythm that makes even the museum guides jump, their hands clutching their clipboards a little tighter as they lead their tour. Some say Jamie once jangled so loudly that a group of schoolchildren on a tour fled the east wing, swearing they'd heard a cell door slam shut. A tale that's been told over cups of tea at the Belhaven Hotel ever since. Others claim Jamie's keys once unlocked a cell door on their own, letting a ghostly prisoner out for a midnight stroll. A story that's made every night watchman at the jail check his locks twice. So, if you're at Jedburgh jail and hear a jangle in the dark, leave a dirham for Jamie. He's still patrolling, hoping to finish his rounds after all these years. His ghostly keys a spooky echo of the jail's knack for keeping its past alive in the shadows of the borders. But Jedburgh's got more ghostly whispers. Let's step into the cells, where a prisoner's still pacing. The cells of Jedburgh jail were a grim home for the town's wrongdoers, their iron bars rusted with time, their stone walls etched with the scratches of desperate hands, each mark a silent plea for freedom or a tally of days that stretched into years. The prisoners ranged from petty thieves to hardened criminals, their stories a tapestry of hardship in the borders, where survival often meant bending the law, whether it was smuggling whiskey across the border or rustling sheep from a rival clan's pasture. The jail's regime was harsh bread and water for meals, a thin straw mattress for a bed, and the constant clank of chains as prisoners shuffled to the workyard, breaking rocks under the watchful eye of jailers like Jamie, their hands blistered and their spirits broken by the monotony of it all. But one prisoner's footsteps still echo through the cells, a spectral figure whose restless pacing has become the stuff of local legend, whispered about in the streets of Jedburgh as the sun sets and the shadows lengthen. Meet Pacing Pete, a ghostly prisoner who vanished in 1862 while serving a sentence for stealing a sheep from a local farmer, a crime that earned him a year in Jedburgh cells, his sentence a harsh lesson in the cost of a hungry belly. Pete was a wiry lad, his hair a tangled mess, his eyes always darting as if looking for a way out. But he had a habit of pacing his cell, muttering, "I'll be free to himself as he wore a groove in the stone floor, a habit that drove his cellmates up the wall, their grumbles of "Shut it, Pete," echoing through the block. One night, mid-pace, Pete vanished into the shadows of his cell, leaving only his tattered cap on the floor, its brim stained with the sweat of his endless wandering. Now, Pacing Pete haunts the cell block, his footsteps a ghostly echo that sends shivers down the spine of every visitor peering through the bars, their torchlights flickering as they strain to hear the sound over the creak of the old building. If you leave a sprig of heather on the cell floor, Pete might pause his pacing to whisper a thank you, his voice a raspy murmur, "Tar, mate, but I've got to keep moving." But don't step inside, or you'll be pacing alongside him for eternity, your footsteps joining his in a never-ending loop. On quiet evenings, his pacing mixes with the wind outside, a ghostly rhythm that makes even the museum's audio guides skip, their recordings crackling as if Pete's muttering through the speakers. Some say Pete once paced so fast that a visitor's map flew out of their hand, landing in the next cell if Pete had kicked it in frustration, a tale that's been told over pints at the Royal Hotel ever since. Others claim Pete's pacing once woke a sleeping guard in 1975 who swore he'd heard footsteps in an empty cell block, a story that's made every curator at the jail check the locks twice at closing time. So, if you're in Jedburgh cells and hear a ghostly step, leave a sprig for Pete. He's still pacing, hoping to find his freedom after all these years. His ghostly footsteps a spooky echo of the jail's knack for keeping its prisoners on the move, even in the afterlife. From ghostly prisoners to cursed keys, let's climb to the jail's tower, where a key's got a story to unlock. The Tower of Jedburgh Jail, a squat, stone structure overlooking the town, was the jailer's lookout, its narrow windows offering a view of the border's rolling hills, where the Cheviots rise like sentinels against the sky, their slopes dotted with sheep and the occasional hiker braving the wind. From the tower, jailers like Jamie kept watch for escapees, their eyes sharp as they scan the horizon for a glimpse of a runaway prisoner darting through the heather, their shouts of "Oi, leg it!" echoing down to the courtyard below. The tower also held the jail's most prized possession, the master key, a heavy iron thing that could unlock every cell, its weight a symbol of the jailer's power, its teeth worn smooth by years of turning in rusty locks. But one key in the tower has a curse that's hard to unlock, a piece of iron that's been the talk of every jailer who ever climbed its spiral stairs, their boots echoing on the stone as they whispered about the key that wouldn't stay put. Meet the Key of Kirsty, a cursed key that vanished in 1839 after its keeper, Kirsty McLean, disappeared while locking the tower door, right as a storm rolled in from the borders, its thunder shaking the jail like a warning from the heavens. Kirsty was a fierce lass, her red hair a fiery cascade, her apron always dusted with flour from baking bannocks for the jailers, but she had a habit of singing lullabies as she worked, her voice a soothing balm to the prisoners who'd listen through their cell doors, dreaming of home. One night, mid-song, Kirsty vanished into the storm, leaving the key on the tower floor, its iron glowing with a ghostly light that made the other jailers drop their lanterns and run. Now, the Key of Kirsty haunts the tower, glowing with a ghostly shimmer and whispering lullabies in a voice like a creaking lock. Hush now, sleep tight. If you leave a bannock on the tower steps, Kirsty might whisper a lullaby, her tone as soft as a mother's hug, but don't pick up the key, or you'll be locked in the tower for a month, hearing her songs in your dreams. On stormy nights, her lullabies drift through the jail, a ghostly echo that sends shivers down the spine of every visitor climbing the tower stairs, their hands gripping the railing a little tighter as they ascend. Some say the key once locked a tourist in the tower in 1983, her screams unheard until dawn when the key vanished, leaving the door wide open, a tale that's been told over drams at the Spread Eagle in ever since. Others claim Kirsty's lullaby once lulled a guard dog to sleep, the beast snoring so loudly the prisoners thought the jail was haunted by a bear, a story that's made every new curator at the jail check the tower twice at closing time. So, if you're in Jedburgh's tower and hear a ghostly lullaby, leave a bannock for Kirsty, she's still singing, hoping to unlock her freedom. But all these years, her ghostly key a spooky echo of the jail's knack for keeping its cursed relics alive in the heart of the borders. From cursed keys to clanking chains, let's step into the courtyard, where a chain's got a story to rattle. The courtyard of Jedburgh jail was a grim place for prisoners, its high walls topped with iron spikes, its cobblestones worn smooth by the shuffle of chained feet, each step a reminder of the freedom they'd lost. Here, prisoners were marched out for hard labor, breaking rocks under the watchful eye of jailers, their chains clanking like a grim orchestra as they worked, their hands blistered and their backs bent under the weight of their sentences. The courtyard also saw punishments, floggings for the unruly, public humiliation for the petty thieves, their crimes read out to a jeering crowd of townsfolk who'd gather to watch, their shouts of thief and scoundrel echoing off the walls. But one chain in the courtyard clanks louder than the rest, a spectral relic whose rattling has become the stuff of local legend, whispered about in the streets of Jedburgh as the moon rises and the night grows cold. Meet the chain of Callum, a ghostly chain that vanished in 1850 after its wearer, Callum Brodie, disappeared while being flogged for stealing a loaf, right as the whip cracked and a fog rolled in from the River Jed, its chill seeping into the bones of every onlooker. Callum was a scrawny lad, his face pale as the moon, his eyes always darting as if planning his next escape. But he had a habit of humming a tune as he worked, a lilting melody that made even the hardest jailers pause to listen, their whips stilled for a moment by the beauty of his song. Mid-flogging, Callum vanished into the fog, leaving the chain on the cobblestones, its links glowing with a ghostly light that made the crowd scatter like frightened sheep, the shouts of witchcraft echoing through the town. Now, the chain of Callum haunts the courtyard, clanking through the air and whispering tunes in a voice like a creaking gate is sing with me, mate. If you leave a crumb of bread on the cobblestones, Callum might clank a thank you, his melody as haunting as a Highland lament. But don't touch the chain, or you'll be shackled to it for a month, hearing his song in your ears. On foggy nights, its clanks drift through the jail, a ghostly echo that sends shivers down the spine of every visitor walking the grounds, their footsteps quickening as they pass the courtyard. Some say the chain once shackled a tourist's ankle in 1990, dragging him across the courtyard until he sang a verse of Callum's tune, a tale that's been told over pints at the Carter's Rest ever since. Others claim Callum's chain once clanked so loudly it awoke the town crier, who rang his bell at midnight, thinking the jail was under attack, a story that's made every local in Jedburgh check their doors twice at night. So, if you're in Jedburgh's courtyard and hear a ghostly clank, leave a crumb for Callum, he's still singing, hoping to break free after all these years. His ghostly chain a spooky echo of the jail's knack for keeping its past alive in the heart of the Scottish borders. Which spooky echo's your fave? Comment below and subscribe to Tall Tales UK for more whimsical British stories. Cheerio.